All right. Welcome to the Church of Perpetual Life. It is my extreme pleasure to welcome you tonight, and I'd also like to give a special welcome to our friends who are watching all the way from Austria, Greece, and England. Welcome as well. Believe it or not, in this building we have about 100 people, but we have more people watching us online, and we are looking forward to doing more of that all over the world. If you are far away and would like to have a meetup in your area of the world, be sure to get in touch with me by email, and that's Neil at churchofperpetuallife.org. It's a different email. And Neil at perpetuallife.org, or just stopoldage@aol.com is a lot easier. Say hello, and we'll be happy to help you set up a meetup in your country, state, or providence. Now, I'd like to let you know a little bit about the upcoming schedule for Perpetual Life. Next month, we are going to be meeting on Sunday. Who wants to come to church on Sunday? 3 people. Uh-oh. That's not going to be enough. Sunday, May 19th at 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Doors will open at 2 o'clock. At the Church of Perpetual Life right here, we're going to have a special lecturer, Peter Voss. Peter Voss is going to come, and I know that we're going to have a crowd because we have probably 50 or 60 young cryonicists who are coming by bus. So don't miss that, and that'll be next month, May 19th, a special Sunday edition of Perpetual Life. This is an unusual thing, so I understand if you can't make it, of course, we'll be live streaming as we always do. We also have coming up on June 27th, that's Thursday, back to a Thursday night, a special arrangement with Brian Clement of the Hippocrates Institute, Joseph Scott of the Healthy Tribe, and many other guest panelists. As we had last June, we'll have the health panelists set up, and that will be a wonderful event as well. If you missed that last year, you can watch the YouTube on that, but don't miss that event. It'll be so fun. And finally, for my announcements of upcoming events at Perpetual Life, July 27th, Saturday. July 27th, on Saturday in the afternoon, we have the International Cryonics Symposium, and that will be hosted and presented by Rudy Hoffman. Our scheduled speakers are Dennis Kowalski, president of the Cryonics Institute, Max Moore, CEO of Alcor Life Extension Foundation, Linda Chamberlain, who is the founder of Alcor, Joseph Kowalski. Joe Kowalski is coming again. What a great speaker from the Cryonics Institute. Mike Perry from the Venturists, Jim Yount from the American Cryonics Society, a virtual presentation by the Russian cryonics organization Cryorus, and but this is the first time in history that all of the international organizations of cryonics will be under one roof at one time, and they'll be all here in July. Come early and stay late. If you're curious about cryonics, that is the place that you're going to want to be. You can obviously watch this on live stream, but you're not going to want to miss the fabulous presentations that will be coming up. All right, we will have in August, we're going to have an open microphone night, and in September we will have a movie night, and of course October is when we're going to be doing the RADFest. So if you don't know about the RADFest, how many people are here know about the RADFest, Revolution Against Aging and Death? Yay! How many here have never heard of the RADFest before in their life? Never heard of the RADFest? Okay, so those of you who don't know about it, be sure to ask me, or ask Douglas, ask Deborah, ask one of us, and we can get you some information. On the free table downstairs, there's a little card also that'll give you some information on the RAD Festival. As we announced last week, we have elections tonight for our Board of Trustees. Board nominees, please stand as I mention your name if you're upstairs already, so that everyone can identify you. And the nominations are for President, Richard Daly; for Vice President, Bill Falloon, and he's coming up, I'm sure. Secretary-Treasurer is Ben Best. Board Member Jeff Shaw, and also Board Member Andrew Michael. And we have also another, the alternate for tonight is Jay. We have an alternate board member slot open, but we want to thank also Jay Wasserlof. Where are you, Jay? There you are. Okay, so Jay is a new face for you because he's just now hoping to join the board tonight. And we're going to have elections right now and right here. So, this is your slate. here we have it. And you didn't know about Jay because that was something I didn't give you, Doug, so you're just perfect back there. Let's give a big hand to our AV team, Douglas and Rob and Warren, our AV team in the back. It's that little room where the magic happens. You ever see The Wizard of Oz? The man behind the curtain? We've got 3 men behind the curtain, and they're making some magic back there, and I appreciate them tremendously. So Jay is our alternate. Are there any other nominations for an alternate board member from the floor, or any other position? Are there any other nominations from the floor for any of the board nominees, from president through board members to alternates? Third and final call, are there any other nominations from the floor? All right, who would like to make a motion to close nominations? Thank you. And Tanya seconded, I saw. So we've got it all on camera. Thank you. So all who vote yes for our new Board of Trustees, please make it known by holding up your hand and saying aye, or making it known in another obvious manner. Yes. All who vote no, make it known by holding up your hand and saying nay, making it known by another obvious manner. 1. Okay. So the ayes have it. They are all elected by acclamation. Please let the record note that there was, in fact, 1 dissenting vote. You have made your choice. Let us all welcome and thank our Board of Trustees. Again, stand, Jay, and any other board members here. All right. Thank you. Yes, Andrew. All right. So these are your board members. Many of you know them by the fact that you've known them for so long. And those of you who don't know Jay, you'll be able to get to know him this evening. Maybe you don't know Andrew or Jeff. I'm sure you do, but if you don't, you can meet with them as well. And I understand Ben is here and is, thank you, Ben. Congratulations, you are Secretary Treasurer again. It's a position for life, I hope, because we appreciate and I honor what you do. It's a perpetual position. So you've made your choice, and you've chosen the Board of Trustees, and you make choices every day. You can choose to buy an apple or an orange when you go to the store. You can choose to drive fast or slowly. You can choose to wear a seatbelt or to travel by motorcycle. You can choose healthy life over aging and death. So many people these days have technophobia, the fear of advancing technologies. And it's been this way throughout history. Cavemen huddled in the cold and dark until one curious individual saw the lightning strike and went to investigate it, thus brought back a burning torch to warm their clan and to survive through the ice ages. In the Dark Ages, sailors worried about sailing too far from shore for fear that they might fall off the edge of the earth. Okay. For fear of falling off the earth, and a few courageous captains came along with a new emerging technology of navigation that they had that allowed them to discover, in fact, that the world is round. Time and time again, throughout history, humanity is pulled forward by a few independent, courageous, unique individuals that have a vision outside of what is considered to be normal by society. This has been true for ages, and in spite of our collective fears, humanity endures, overcomes, and flourishes. Those that fear and avoid longevity technologies have no chance of survival. We who embrace these emerging technologies have a real hope for a long, healthy lives and bright futures. You have choices. You can choose health and life over aging and death. Regardless of these naysayers and prophets of doom, it is for all of us to share the news of these discoveries, and it is our job, all of our jobs, to hold the light of knowledge for others. It's our work to forge the paths forward for ourselves and for the coming generations that will follow us. For the first time in history, we have the chance to live an unlimited life. In laboratories around the world, we are unraveling the secrets of aging and finding ways to reverse the damage that aging does to the body and to the mind. All over the world, you will find groups of people that fear and resist emerging technologies. When my grandfather was shown the wireless radio, he refused to listen to it. He didn't understand it. He said it was the devil's work. He wouldn't go near it because he didn't understand it. He feared it. When the telephone first came out, many people reacted with fear and trepidation. There were even a group of people who formed to use the telephone because they wanted to try to talk to the dead. They didn't understand that technology. It can be hard for us sometimes here at Perpetual Life to understand why some people do not embrace the emerging life-saving technologies of longevity, but instead simply assume that death is inevitable. It's hard to understand how some people can get caught in the game of life. Work, 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 make money, work. It's like a game. And then in all of that working, they don't invest those funds into these emerging technologies that can save lives, even when it can prolong and save their own lives. It's hard to understand. Death is not inevitable. We were not born to die. Abraham Lincoln said, "Surely God would not have created such a being as man with an ability to grasp the infinite, to exist only for a day." No. No. Man was made for immortality. Here at the Church of Perpetual Life, we call ourselves immortalists. Of course, we recognize and realize that we can be killed by diseases or by getting run over by a truck. But we have faith in humanity to research and reveal the mysteries of life and aging, and we hold faith for humanity to reverse the aging process. We hold faith in having an unlimited lifespan and see this happening within our lifetimes. We can see the accelerated momentum of medical research and discovery, and we understand that if we can live long enough, we can live unlimitedly. I love my friends and my family. I love my work. I love my job. I love all that I'm doing, and I want to live forever. I want to live forever because I love life. I love what I do. There's so much to do. There's so much to see, so much to learn. You know, to live just a mere 100 years, it's not enough. It's not long enough. It's not even close to being long enough. There's not enough time there to do all that there is to do. I want to live healthy. I want to live to be a healthy 125-year-old man. I want to live to be 150. I want to live to be healthy and 200 years old because there is so much to do. I need more time to love and learn. I need more time to visit all the museums around the world, to read all the books that I haven't gotten to. How many books will there be in 100 years from now that I'll want to put on that list? We need time also to restore this planet to a paradise. Time to clean the waters. Time to clean the air. Time to restore all the forms of benevolent life that live here. Some species are just hanging on by a thread. Our world can be a Garden of Eden if we have the time to create the utopia that men and women have written about and dreamed of for ages. I want to live forever. What about you? Who else wants to live forever? Is it just me? Good. I'm glad to see there are people, and I know there are people watching online all over the world that also want to live. These people can invite their families and friends and have meetups, and we're helping them to do that. There are more people out into the world watching right now in groups, small meetups in Greece, in Amsterdam, in England, in California, all over the world, all over the country, watching just like we are here, breaking bread and inviting their friends and families. Watching our YouTube channel, usually, because of the time difference. And that's perfectly great. We can see immortality in nature. There are living creatures on this planet right now that appear to have unlimited lives. The immortal jellyfish. Who's heard about the immortal jellyfish? The immortal jellyfish has a life cycle that begins like a polyp and grows into an adult jellyfish and then reverses aging back into a polyp and then grows old and then grows young. And it's been watched doing this repeatedly over and over. It's believed that it's been doing this for thousands of years in the oceans. The immortal jellyfish. If it's natural and acceptable for a jellyfish to be able to reverse aging, why is it deemed unacceptable by society? Why is it considered unnatural for a human being to do this very same thing? I don't know. For me, it's not unnatural. For me, it's a destiny for all of us that are here. I have a theory why society does not accept, in some cases, the idea of age reversal. It has to do with peer pressure. It has to do with herd mentality. People and animals can be influenced by their peers to adopt behaviors, and they do so emotionally instead of for rational reasons. When sheep are spooked by a wolf, they all take off in a flock in one direction. The herd goes. We often do things based on herd mentality, which is also known as peer pressure. And of course, there are times when this is important to do. We have to have laws. We have to have rules. We can't have chaos. But there are also times and situations where we must resist pack mentality. Aging and death fall into that category. Some years ago, a plane crashed in Africa. It was a flight from Kinshasa to a town called Bandundu. The crash happened as the plane was coming in to land. 20 people on board, including the 2 pilots, were killed. There was only one survivor who was immediately taken to the hospital. He was taken to the hospital. The plane was a modern, in good condition. It had Czech-made twin-engine turboprop 410s. The weather and visibility were excellent, and both pilots were qualified and experienced, seasoned pilots. The wreckage was examined, and everything was found to be in good mechanical working order. No one understood the reason why the plane crashed until they questioned the sole survivor. He explained about what really happened, and it was something that no one could ever guess that had happened that caused this plane crash. The reason for the crash was that one of the passengers hid a small crocodile in a duffel bag. It was in the luggage. The luggage was back behind all the people. It was in the fuselage. The luggage was stacked behind the people. The people were seated here. And this, of course, crocodiles, they're illegal to bring on board, so he smuggled it in his duffel bag. And it had gotten loose. The stewards, seeing this, ran to the front of the plane to inform the pilots about the crocodile. The people in the plane panicked. Seeing the stewards running away from the crocodile, they also ran. They all ran to the front of the plane, and now the weight distributed to the nose, and the plane pitched downward. Despite the pilots trying to tell everybody to get back to their seats, they couldn't do it because by now they're all on top of each other. They can't climb up. They can't get up to the front, to the back of the plane, rather. And so the plane hit the ground at full impact. 20 people were killed with that one survivor. Ironically, the little crocodile survived because it was still hanging on the back of the plane. All those people died. All those people died because of herd mentality and panic. Everyone was copying everyone else because that's what people do. They copy each other without thinking. Herd mentality, peer pressure. It's a strong force which overrides logic or questioning or debate. Peer pressure overrides reasoning or common sense. It can result in terrible decisions leading to injury, wars, injustice, and death. A person's fear of being alone, the fear of being left out, fear of being ostracized, that can cause this. But you have the opportunity to think before you join the herd. You have the opportunity to choose being a part of the cult of death or being a member of perpetual life. You have a choice. The choice is yours. Which will you choose? Our guest speaker this evening will be introduced by my assistant, Deborah. I would like to note that there are pens and index cards in the seats behind all of the pews that we have. And that's because that's how we're doing Q&A now. For those of you who weren't here last month, question and answers will be written down. If you'll just write down your questions. Bunny Bee is going to come and collect them after our speaker and bring them to me. And this way, if 7 of you have the same question, we'll be sure to get that question answered for you if possible. We only have 5 minutes for Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, my executive assistant, Deborah Horton. Deborah.
What an honor. Dr. Kaufmann began her academic career in the field of cellular biology, earning a master's degree from the University of Connecticut in tropical ecology and plant physiology. Turning to medicine, she received her medical degree at the University of Maryland and completed a residency and fellowship at Johns Hopkins in the field of pediatric anesthesiology. For the last 5 years, she has been the chief of pediatric anesthesia at the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital, a nationally recognized center of excellence. Most recently, she was recognized as Best in Medicine by the American Health Council. Her avid interest in the science of anti-aging began many years ago as an intense hobby. Utilizing her knowledge in cell biology, human pharmacology, and physiology, this hobby has now become a main focus. The project represents years of non-clinical research leading to the first ever comprehensive theory of aging. I would love to introduce Dr. Sandra Kaufmann.
Thank you. That needs to be updated. I wrote that 2 years ago. First of all, I want to thank everyone. Thank you for the invitation, especially because it's down the street from Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital. This is like the best place to ever give a lecture. So I appreciate the invitation. I'm going to clean these off because I'm going to read somebody else's notes. All right, so I'm going to talk about something called the Kaufmann Protocol. You will learn that I'm a very informal person. I tend to speak quickly. I have a lot of information. Stop me if I'm too fast. I know they don't want you to ask me questions while I'm going along, but I just want to make sure that people are following me. So you can either nod or not nod, whatever, at your convenience. Anyway, some people here have heard of the Kaufmann Protocol because I've seen a book or two floating around. Some people have not, but my lecture is going to parallel this book. It's called Why We Age and How to Stop It, which is probably the most boring title in the entire planet, but it is exactly what it means. The first half of the book is Why You Age, kind of cellular biology-ish, trying to make it more interesting as you read it, you'll see. And then the second half is exactly how to stop it. I wanted a program that anyone could understand, anyone could purchase, and anyone could do. We're years ahead of, our are ahead of us before we get to STEM therapy and all that sort of thing. So this is very practical. All right, who am I? She told you who I am. I was a cell biologist, I'm a physician, but more importantly, just like you, I really didn't want to age. I'm a bit of an adventure nut. I rock climb, I climb mountains, I do crazy stuff. Dawned on me about 5-6 years ago that if I was going to keep doing this stuff, I had got to stop aging. It's harder as you get older, as you guys know. I did not want to put any of this behind me. I want to keep doing it forever. So I decided that I was going to figure out this aging thing. Seemed kind of like an ambitious quest, and people laughed at me for it, but I'm like, what the heck, right? So I did what we all do. I started reading. And I've read zillions and zillions and zillions of research articles, and there's a lot of crazy stuff out there. So I threw out all the ideas that I thought were fruitcakey, and I kept all the ones that made sense, and I accumulated them all, and I created my own theory of aging, and that's what I'm going to share with you. So, interestingly enough, when I tell people that I have an aging protocol, they love to tell me what it's about. They go, oh, we know this is about colonic cleansing. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. So I decided that I've started this lecture telling people what it's not, so then we can focus on what it is. So it's not about diet and exercise. Everyone's terrified that I'm going to make them go to the gym. I don't really care if you go to the gym. It will help you, not mandatory. And you don't need to stop eating donuts. I love donuts, okay? You guys can eat whatever the heck you want. That's not part of the protocol either, okay? You will lose weight on this because it's good for you. But you don't have to, okay? It's not hormone replacement. It's not just for older people. You age, starting at the age of 30-ish, so it's for everybody. And I'm not curing any diseases specifically, but I can help a heck of a lot of people that have age-related diseases. What is it? It is a comprehensive interpretation of cellular aging. And I know you guys, I can see the looks on your faces, you're like, oh my God, that is code for long and boring. But I'm gonna try to make this interesting, okay? So hang in there. All of the information I'm going to tell you comes from real science. Not making any of this up. I talk about the hierarchy of evidence. Does something work in a cell culture? Does it work in a test tube? Does it work in small animals? Does it work in humans? Everything that I'm talking about goes through the hierarchy of evidence to make sure that it's real. All right? The other thing is that everyone in this room, as well as anyone that's ever tried to read my book, had varying levels of scientific background. And I don't want people just with PhDs to understand how this works. So what I did is I built a factory model so that anyone could understand it. So if you can understand how a factory works, I'm going to talk you through it, anyone can get this, because I want everyone to be able to understand this theory. All right, so here are the depressing things that we all know about. What is aging? It's a generalized decline in all physiologic function. Importantly, starts at the age of 30. Isn't that depressing, right? 30 to 70-ish, and then on up, that's depressing. It's a decline in homeostatic issues, right? So basically, you just all of your balance that you had in your 20s and 30s out the window. And lastly, it is multifactorial, and that's the important thing. Not one item is going to cure all of aging. It is a multifactorial process, and you have to address all of the issues. Make sense? You guys are squinting. I'm getting some nods. I like audience participation. Yes, no, yes, good, okay. All right, so we're going to pretend that your body is a factory. All right, we're going to focus on our little cells. All right, what does a factory need? First, it needs instructions. What is the factory going to make? How's it going to make it? What are the bylaws? Everything has to be written down, right? Then you need an energy source. Coal, electric, whatever it is, you need an energy source. Then you need pathways. You need all sorts of different types of pathways. You need assembly lines. You need feedback loops. All of these things that make a factory work. You need quality control. You need some division where someone's checking the widgets to make sure that they're working, right? You need your security system. You need the guards. You need the fences. You need your workforce. These are your employees. You need the short-term employees. You need the ones that have been there forever. Lastly, you have to take out the garbage. Waste management, right? Does it make sense to everybody? Nods, yes, no, yes, good. How does this apply to our cells? So the company information, that's your DNA, right? We all have DNA. Tells you everything you need to know. Your energy source, that's your mitochondria. If you don't take care of your mitochondria, you're going to fail. Your pathways. You have probably zillions of pathways in your body. The ones that are important to aging are your sirtuins, your AMP kinase, and your mTOR pathways. And you don't have to memorize all this right now because I'm going to get to all these in detail in a sec. Quality control, you have DNA and protein repair mechanisms. You're checking your widgets. Your security system is, in fact, your immune system. Your workforce are your individual cells. And just like employees, you've got short-term employees, those are your red cells. You got long-acting employees, those are your brain cells. And waste management is waste management. In our bodies, got the AGEs and the lipofuscin. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but we're going to get to it because I'm starting to get blank stares. So we're going to go through these one by one. DNA. Everyone knows about DNA, right? All right, so briefly what happens to DNA over time is we worry about epigenetic remodeling and telomeres, right? Yes? No? All right. Epigenetics. What is epigenetics? Some people are going to know this, some people aren't going to know this, so I'm going to give you the quick and dirty. DNA, it's a spiraling staircase described by Watson and Crick in the 1950s. 4 base pairs, you don't need to know that. When I was in med school, that's it. That's all we knew. Now we know about methylation. Methylation, I like to think of as lollipops, which is why this diagram looks the way it does. You put lollipops on the side of the DNA, and it blocks the ability of your body to use that piece of DNA. It's a roadblock. You can't describe it, you can't translate it, you can't make whatever protein that was going to make. That is methylation. Okay? Methylation changes over time. We used to think that you got a global demethylation as you aged. We now know that the pattern of methylation changes. It's not as either you need more, you need less. The pattern changes. Additionally, we also know that DNA is packaged. It's wrapped around something called histones. Histones are like little balls. Specifically, it's 8 subunits, blah, 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 but you don't need to know that. DNA wraps around it, eats up 147 base pairs of DNA, and the histones get methylated, phosphorylated, acetylated, it doesn't matter. I call it decoration. If it's decorated, it doesn't unwind the DNA and it blocks off that piece. So it's just an added way to control your DNA, which is why it's on top of or epigenetic. These patterns change with time. Epigenetics, so now you know what it is. There are predictable patterns, and then there's unpredictable patterns. Predictable fall, everyone heard of the Horvath clock? Yes, no, anybody? Getting blank stares. Okay, so DNA that changes in a predictable fashion, this very smart guy, Steve Horvath, put a theory out 2000, either 14 or 15. He looked at 363 specific areas of your DNA, and looking at ratios of hypo or hypermethylation, he can tell you almost exactly how old you are physiologically. Very standard changes over time. However, there's epigenetic drift. And this is you as an individual. Depending on what you eat, if you smoke, if you do this, if you do that, it changes your methylation patterns, and it basically predicts how you're going to age. If you look at identical twins that get more and more and more different as they get older, it's epigenetic drift. And people say, that's ridiculous. How could food possibly affect my genetics? And I love the honeybee experiment. This is so cool. It's not an experiment, it's just a thing. If you look at all the bees in a hive, okay, they're all genetically identical. Completely genetically identical, right? And when they're larvae, they're all fed royal jelly. At some point, some of them stay on royal jelly, and the other ones get switched to pollen and nectar. The ones that stay on the royal jelly become queens. Their body size doubles and triples, and their activity changes, and their lifespan like quadruples. Their genetics are identical, and their food determined their lifespan. So, voila, what you eat will in fact affect how you live. Telomeres. Everyone know about telomeres? I'm sure Bill Andrews was here, right? Right? I love that man. He knows everything about telomeres. Just so people are all sort of all on the same page, telomeres are the ends of your DNA. It's the caps of your DNA. It protects your DNA. Every time a cell doubles or it gets stressed, the telomeres shrink. You lose about 50 base pairs per year, and it limits the amount of cellular division. Conveniently, in cells that live a long time have a gene that makes an enzyme called telomerase, and this makes your telomeres grow. That, of course, you lose over time, therefore everyone's telomeres get shorter over time, and it's like a ticking time bomb. Does that make sense? Yes, good. And tenet 2, energy, mitochondria. Everyone knows about mitochondria, right? Yes, perfect. Powerhouse of the cell. Different cells have different numbers depending on how much energy is required of them. Some cells have absolutely none. A red cell has no mitochondria. Liver cells have a ton. That's not true. 1,000 to 2,000 mitochondria per cell, and you see, God, that's a lot, right? Feminine oocytes have the most. When you're immature, it's between 5 to 10,000 mitochondria per cell. When you rev up to make an egg, it's 500,000. 500,000 mitochondria in one cell. Interestingly enough, it's one of the reasons why we go into menopause. Not me yet. That's a little personal, sorry. If you can keep your mitochondria as healthy as possible, you can theoretically block menopause. Okay? Anyway, you need to know that cells make them and then take them away depending on need. So it's a very flexible system, but you have to have the ability to do that. Mitochondria, we all know it functions via the electron transport chain, right? Oh, yeah. Okay, so the electron transport chain sits in the wall of the mitochondria in the inside, and by using a proton pump, you create electrical gradients, and then you make ATP. ATP, of course, is the coinage of the energy of your cell, blah, 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 blah. Interestingly enough, the last piece of the electron transport chain is oxygen. Okay? So oxygen is necessary to make energy, as we all know. Unfortunately, 1 to 5% becomes radicalized, right? We've all heard of free radicals, right? Yes, free radicals, evil things. We know that we need a small amount of them to make cells function. We also know that too many of them will destroy your cells. Now, the body is very smart, right? He goes, haha, I should get rid of these. So you have your own endogenous free radical scavengers in each of your cells. Of course, over time, what happens? You don't have as much as you need. You get more mitochondrial damage, the cell blows up, and all things go very badly for you. However, we can increase that, so that's good. I lost track. Right, decline in SOD, blah, 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 blah. Much nicotinamide deficient, and you need it because it is key in the proton pump method of the cytochromes, okay? If you are nicotinamide deficient, you are not going to make ATP. You're just not. All right, tenet 3, aging pathways. Remember we talked about the factor you need pathways? There are 3 pathways for aging. A few more, but we're not going to talk about them. How do we know that this exists? Because we know that skinny people do better than non-skinny people. I'm not allowed to say fat, but non-skinny people, right? It's not appropriate. So we know that if you are calorically restricted, you just do better because you're activating these pathways. What is caloric restriction? It is a 20 to 50% decline in caloric intake over the course of time versus your regular diet. But the key is that you can't starve. You have to have adequate nutrition, just fewer calories. And you do this, it is the most consistent non-pharmacological way of extending life, okay? In humans, worms, yeast, the whole 9 yards. And it does this because of these pathways we're going to talk about. The first one are sirtuins. Everyone knows about sirtuins? Oh, blank stares, wow, ooh, bad. You guys need the book. Okay, sirtuins. They're in your genes, and then they make proteins. If you read the literature, every time it's a gene, it's all caps. If it's a protein, it's not, so you can sort of tell the difference, but they're all labeled with the same names. A little confusing. Sirtuin stands for silent information regulator gene. Discovered in the year 2000. If yeast had an extra copy, they lived 30% longer. If they had, conversely, one less gene, they'd live less long. All right? Interestingly enough, they need NAD. It is a necessary coenzyme in the function of these. So this is the second reason that you become nicotinamide deficient, interestingly enough. And they do a lot of things. We have 7 of them. SIRT1, of course, is the one we know the most about, which is why it gets to be number 1. I'm not going to bore you with all of the details, but the cool thing is in the nucleus, right, because that's where your DNA is, but they're not all in the nucleus. Interestingly enough, it controls your circadian rhythms. So as people get older, they say, I just can't sleep. Why is that? Because they're sirtuin deficient. This is not brain surgery, and I've done brain surgery. This is not that. The other thing is it controls your inflammatory pathways, which is kind of cool. SIRT2 in cytoplasm and nucleus controls mitosis, and interestingly, it's an epigenetic modifier. So it's all very sort of intertwined. I try to separate things out to make it easier, but it is all intertwined, so don't let my simplifications fool you. 3, I love 3, because it affects brown fat. Anyone know what brown fat is? right? It's the good stuff. You want brown fat because brown fat burns calories without you actually doing anything. So if you have white fat, it's storage and it's gross. Brown fat is just burns calories. So if you're in a cold environment, you tend to have more brown fat. If you can artificially make more brown fat, you get to eat more donuts without doing anything. So I love sirtuin 3. 4 and 5 are pretty boring. 6 is interesting because it preserves your telomeres. That's quite important. And again, it prevents the diet-induced obesity. I like to think that all of these old guys with the abdominal tire syndrome, that I call it, are simply sirtuin deficient, and once we get them on some of these sirtuin activators, the belly fat sort of goes away. I mean, you guys know this, right? The old, I'm eating the same, and for some reason I'm getting abdominal fat. So you're sirtuin deficient. 7 is boring. I have to include it. Didn't fit on the other slides. Sorry about that. So what happens with your sirtuins? Of course, everything good takes a dive with age. So we're all sirtuin deficient. And we're NAD dependent. They are NAD dependent, and we become NAD deficient. 2 reasons why these things don't work very well. Good news is we can fix it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. All right, AMP kinase. Anyone heard of NAD? Blah. AMP kinase? Yes, sweet. It is the metabolic master switch. AMP, clearly, AMP, ATP. If you have more AMP, you are energy deficient. So what this does is it sort of keeps track of the environment, and if you are energy deficient, it creates ways of making more energy and then turning off systems that use a lot of energy. Sort of puts you in a state of hibernation if you're starving. So how do we increase ATP production? Well, you break down your fat, right? Take it out of storage, and you break down the glucose that you have, and you shuffle it into cells. And that's really what you need, and when this fails, you kind of get fat. And we decrease the utilization because you don't have a whole lot of extra energy to burn, so you turn stuff off. So you don't make fatty acids, you don't make glycogen, but you also don't make proteins. So everything comes at a cost. What happens when you lose AMP kinase? Not so great things. You lose autophagy, which is cellular recycling. We haven't really talked about that yet. You lose increasing oxidative stress, increasing inflammation. Again, you get more fat deposition. Truly not a good thing. I guess the one piece that's important at the bottom of that slide is, can we fix it? And the answer is yes. Cool. Okay, mTOR. Everyone's heard about mTOR because everyone's talked about rapamycin, right? Yes? No? I'm losing people. Uh-oh. Okay. Rapamycin, mechanistic target of rapamycin is the mTOR pathway. It is a protein. It's a serine threonine protein kinase, so I'm tripping over that. It too senses the environment, but it's the opposite of the first two. This is the pathway that builds things. All right? It's anabolic, it's not catabolic. So it's very important when you're young, when you need to build muscle tissue, build things. It's very helpful. However, it becomes obsolete as you get older because you need to stop building things. If you take an old cell and you force it to do something it doesn't want to do, it does it over too much. For example, in your bone, you have osteoblasts that build and osteoclasts that break down. When you activate osteoclasts and they shouldn't be activated, you get osteoporosis. If you activate platelets that don't want to be bothered, you become hypercoagulable and you stroke out. So all of these things lead to diseases that we can theoretically eliminate, okay? So the idea is if we can block mTOR, maybe we can live way better, which leads us to rapamycin. Rapamycin is named after these statues because it was discovered on Easter Island in the 70s, and it is incredibly good at blocking the mTOR pathway, which means it blocks unbridled growth, which is really important, for example, if you have cancer. So we use it clinically all the time. There's a list of different cancers. Usually we use it for renal cell and some neuroendocrine, but it controls unbridled growth. We also, it's a huge, it's great for blocking immune issues when you get kidney transplants. And the other interesting thing that we use it for is in cardiovascular stents to promote or to prevent fibrosis within the stents. People are on rapamycin. So it seems like this great drug, and everyone should be on it. And I know people always ask me how much to take, and the answer is anyway. The list of positive effects, it's great, generally speaking. People go, oh my gosh, my stem cells are better, this is better, that's better, I should be on this. Beware. Everything comes at a cost. People that are on it in high doses for medicinal purposes, number one, they're immunosuppressed because that's what it does. 60% of people have severe edema. 90% of people lose their hair. Men become infertile as well as women, but men usually more. People go, well, I'm just going to take a little dose, right? Just a little dose. The problem is even little doses block cell turnover. And the biggest issues that this is in your brain. Most people think that your brain cells don't turn over, but there's 3% of the cells in your hippocampus that control your memory. And if you block memory turnover or hippocampal memory, you're going to lose your memory. As well, it causes sarcopenia. I'm going to get to that in a second. So this is a ridiculously busy slide, and I highlighted all the things that I thought were important. Every kind of memory is affected negatively by rapamycin. So you may live forever, but you may not remember it. I don't really think that's a great idea yet. Maybe soon. Additionally, muscle cells turn over. And if you take rapamycin, you lose muscle. That's called sarcopenia. The good news is that there are other ways to skin a cat. Metformin, for example, is a partial mTOR inhibitor. You still become a little sarcopenic, but you can stave it off with leucine and some branched-chain amino acids. So people ask me about rapamycin. I'm just not a huge fan at the moment. All right, am I losing you guys yet? Okay, good. Tenet 4, we're almost there. Quality control. There are 4 DNA repair mechanisms in your body, and there are 4 protein repair mechanisms in your body. Over time, all of the production of proteins and such become corrupted. Body knows this, we can fix it. Unfortunately, the repair mechanisms start failing as well. I throw autophagy in here because I think, well, recycling, quality, that one's that people say, that's a really strange place to put it. Doesn't really matter, sort of esoteric, but it had to be included somewhere. Why is DNA repair important? There are single-strand breaks and double-strand breaks, right? Because it's a twirly ladder. In every cell, every day, there are between 5,000 to 10,000 single-strand breaks. That's a lot of damage. It's by doing nothing. That's a lot of damage. If you don't fix it, you get some problem. Every cell, every day, there's 10 double-strand breaks. That's huge. All right, you add that to deletions, substitutions, cross-stranding. You have 10 to the 5th DNA errors per cell per day. If you don't fix those, you're going to die really fast. And people do. So where do they come from? Life. Free radicals, we talked about free radicals in the mitochondria, they kill you. Gamma radiation, mechanical stress, all of these things, they just accumulate. And if you don't fix them, you're going to pay for it. How does the body do this? And you don't need to know all the details, but I'll tell you why I'm telling you this. It comes in 2 steps. The first step, number 1, right, identify a problem. Step 2, fix it. Step 1 is the important thing here. You have something called PARPs in your body, and this sounds like a crazy word, poly-ADP ribose polymerase. Sounds ridiculous. Importantly, poly just means many ADP riboses. And where does your body get those? From nicotinamide. So your body, this is the 3rd thing that your body needs nicotinamide for. Takes the molecule apart, makes a chain of them, i.e. poly, glues it on the DNA error, and then waits for the other fix-it mechanisms to come. So if you are nicotinamide deficient, you already have 3 big-ass problems on your hands. I should not say things like that. Okay, sorry. Why is DNA damage bad? Causes cells to become senescent, causes chronic inflammation, and it causes cancer. All right, tenet 5, security systems. This is your inflammatory system and your immune system. All right? When you're young, it's great. Fight disease. Life is great. As you get older, 3 main things happen. Number 1, your body is in a chronic state of inflammation. Everyone has aches and pains. This eventually will eat away and deteriorate most of your organs. Number 2, your infection risk goes up because you can't fight disease anymore. And lastly, the cells that are trying to help you fight disease become cancerous. So all the white cells, you get more leukemias and lymphomas. The chronic inflammation is so bad that they made up a word for it that I can never say. Sort of inflammaging. Sounds crazy, right? But it's a word, and you can measure it, which is kind of cool. And we know that the older you get, the more inflamed you are. Infection risk goes up. Why? Because you have fewer stem cells, and the stem cells that you do have can't make cells that are any good. Specifically, the macrophages, killer cells, and B cells don't work very well. And because of the B cells, older people don't respond to vaccines. The way vaccines work is you present an antigen, and it makes all of these antibodies. If your cells don't work, vaccines don't take, and you become more infected. Workforce. I know I'm trying to get to the end of these because I'm beginning to lose you guys. Quite sorry. Different cells last different periods of time. There's some very short-lived cells. There's some very long-lived cells, and there are ones in the middle that I call the Goldilocks cells. And they have different requirements. Some are stationary. Your brain cell's not going anywhere. Your red cells are running all over the place. So different cells have different requirements. As I said, they're short-lived cells. I call these the live hard and die fast cells. Right? Your red cells last for 30 days, plus or minus. Your white cells last for, 36 to 48 hours. The cells in the track of your GI system last 1 to 5 days. You are making a lot of cells every day. High nutrient requirement. You make more cells every day than you would need if you were making a baby. So I tell everyone that asks that you should be on a prenatal vitamin. Your cells are almost more important than the baby. I shouldn't really say that. But you need those same nutrients to make your cells as healthy as you can. So even men, postnatal, prenatal, I don't care. Everyone should be on prenatal vitamins. There's medium cells. They last about 6 to 8 years, maybe up to 10 years. Liver, bone, kidney, they do get replaced. Even myocardium cells get replaced. We didn't think that actually happened, but it does. And then on the other side of it, there's the ones that last almost your entire lifetime. Most of the brain cells last an entire lifetime, with the exception of the ones in your hippocampus that I talked about a minute ago. Interestingly, the bones in your ears last your entire lifetime. And of course, you want your stem cells to last your entire lifetime. Unfortunately, right, stem cells are going to be our prototypical long-acting cells, and they accumulate all the damage that we've been talking about, which is how we know about all this. Right? And the absolute number of viable stem cells goes down with time. Their ability to differentiate goes down with time. They get kind of lazy, right? And interestingly enough, old stem cells prefer to make fat cells instead of bone cells. Because that is exactly what we need when we get older, right? We all want to be fat without good bones. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But unfortunately, this is what happens, right? There's more DNA damage because it just accumulates. You get less telomerase activity, unfortunately. Everything sort of goes awry. And as well, stem cells are niche dependent. They're not going anywhere. You have to get the nutrients to them to make them work well. So if your circulatory system isn't working, they're not going to work either. So it's all sort of interconnected. All right, last tenet, waste management. You have to take out the garbage. What garbage, you say? That's ridiculous. Well, I will tell you. Anyone know what autophagy is? Sort of. Yes. Your cells recycle the organelles. You know what? Actually, wait, we'll get there in a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about AGEs first. Everyone know what AGEs are? I love these things. Best acronym in the world. An AGE, because it makes you age, is an advanced glycation end product. All right? Glucose, I tell people, is sticky on the outside, like a lollipop, sticky on the inside. Glucose sticks to protein, sticks to DNA, sticks to lipids, sticks to everything. Several things happen when it does that. Number one, whatever it's sticking to doesn't function anymore. You spent a lot of energy making whatever protein that was, and now it's not going to work. All right? Additionally, AGEs stick to collagen. Collagen is what is the structural makeup of most of your organs. It's your skin, it's your myocardium, it's all of the things that are structural. It's collagen. And what I like to tell people is if you think of a tablecloth or a napkin, right? You've got fibers crisscrossing. Put a drop of super glue on it and pull on it. What happens? All the fibers rip. That's your skin with AGEs on it. And the more AGEs you have, the worse your skin is. You get little collagen tidbits everywhere, and your skin just doesn't work very well. So that's why AGEs are bad. The last reason that they're bad is you actually have receptors for AGEs, and when a cell gets attacked by an AGE and the receptor gets turned on, it creates a huge inflammatory response. So basically, AGEs are terrible. How do we get them? It's a non-enzymatic process. It just happens. Generally speaking, it's not reversible, except for what I'm going to tell you in a little bit. And they're just pretty terrible. The other garbage is lipofuscin, which you guys don't know about, so I'm going to tell you. When you recycle your cellular organelles, especially the mitochondria, but other pieces and parts as well, the cell is very smart. It takes all the pieces that it needs and reuses them. But there's always that little tiny piece of stuff that the cell goes, yeah, I don't know what to do with this. Right? It stuffs it in the back of the cell, so just kind of ignore it. I call this the kitchen drawer phenomenon. Who here has a kitchen drawer filled with crap? Right? Because the longer you live in that house, the more crap you put in that drawer. And eventually you can't open the drawer anymore, right? Women are nodding because we all know this, right? We all do this. For some reason, you can't throw it away, right? But you're not going to ever use it either, right? Same thing happens in these old cells. They get filled with stuff. And yeah, it's in lysosomes, but it's squished in the back of the cell. If you look at an old person's neuron, and some old 100-year-old dude donated his brain years ago and they sliced it up, 90% of the cells were all stuffed with lipofuscin. It's no wonder your brain doesn't function at that point, right? Interestingly enough, it doesn't just happen to us, it happens to crustaceans, which is why there's a cute little lobster up there, because you can accurately age crustaceans if you measure their lipofuscin levels. So that's kind of cool. And the good news is there's only a few things, but we can clean it out. Let's see. All right, summation. I'm done with my tenets. I hope you guys have followed this. All right, 1 through 7, company manual, DNA, mitochondria, pathways, mechanism, blah, 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 blah. Any questions on any of that? You guys are like, okay. Of course there is, and I'll tell you all about it in a bit. All right, that takes me to the second half of the talk is, what do we do about all this? Right? Why create all of these problems if I don't have a solution for you? The good news is I got solutions. God, that's terrible English. I have solutions for you. This is a stereotypical protocol chart. It's like, oh my goodness, what is all this stuff? And I will tell you. Number 1, across the top, you now recognize the 7 tenets. Right? I've drilled those into your half-asleep brains. Tenet 1, all the way to tenet 7, right? All that is now familiar. Okay, good. Along the left side is a list of molecular agents. And you may or may not be able to read that. It's not important. And you say, what's a molecular agent? I'm just on my list of supplements. And I will tell you why I say this. A supplement is something that you already have in your body, and you're adding to it. You're supplementing that. An adjuvant is something your body doesn't normally have. A mineral is something, and a vitamin is something completely different, right? So I call them molecular agents because they all work on a molecular level. People go, isn't it just a bunch of whatever random agents? The answer is no. There's all molecular agents for a reason. Anyway, so this is a list of them. And then you're going to see a boatload of numbers, right? I don't know if you can see those or not. Sort of, maybe it doesn't really matter. There's zeros, there's ones, there's twos, there's threes. I've evaluated 35-ish agents now in every category that we discussed. If it did absolutely nothing, it gets a 0. If it is stellar, if there's amazing research, incredibly efficacious, works in every model, including people, it gets a 3. Somewhere in the middle, it gets a 1 or a 2. So everything is rated, and then we add them all together, and we have a plan. Realizing you guys are looking at me like I'm crazy, we're going to talk about it in more detail. Astaxanthin is one of my favorite nutrients. I'm only going to talk about 2, so I'm not going to keep you here forever. Astaxanthin is amazing. You're looking at the number going, what the heck is that? This is a Kaufmann rating number. Why? Because I'm Kaufmann and I rated it, and I'm taking full responsibility for that number. People are like, that's kind of selfish. I'm like, I did it, whatever. Anyway, so what you can see by this is each number is one of the tenets. There are 7 digits there. One of the reasons I picked this one is just it's easier because it only does things in 2 categories, right? The second one and the 5th, which now, of course, since you guys have all memorized this, 2 is mitochondria, and 5 is your immune system, your security system. We'll take a little step backwards. What is astaxanthin? You guys heard of astaxanthin? Woo, good, I'm getting good feedback, good. I love astaxanthin. It comes from unicellular flagellates. Very common, they're all over the world. They tend to be in little ponds and such. It's the slime that you see in bird baths. People always go, oh yeah, okay, right? What's interesting is when these little unicellular organisms get angry, they make little orange globs. Just little globs. And you would think, what is this little orange reddish glob going to do in the real world? What's interesting is they accumulate in huge quantities, and they are responsible for pretty much all the red you see in marine life. Krill, roseate spoonbills, anything pink you can think of, salmon, etc. My favorite thing about salmon is if you go to the grocery store and it says artificially flavored, or colored rather, they fed that fish astaxanthin. It's cheaper and it's better for you, just as an aside. So here we go. The second category, tenet 2, mitochondria. It is amazing. I have read 1,000 articles about this stuff. This stuff walks on water. Not only is it a free radical scavenger and an antioxidant all by itself, which, by the way, those two things are not exactly identical, but they're close enough I throw them together. It stimulates your own endogenous antioxidants. Incredibly potent, incredibly good for you, no side effects. It gets a 3. Security systems. It is one of the strongest deactivator of nuclear factor kappa beta. You may not know what that is, but it sits at the top of the inflammatory cascade. If you block the top, everything underneath gets blocked as well. So importantly, it's a COX-2 inhibitor, blocks a huge number of interleukins. Again, I'm not going to go into details. It's very good for you. It's not as potent as it theoretically could be. It didn't get a 3, it got a 2. Still pretty strong. I like to call the list of things that they do bonus properties. The reality is that these things are put in through clinical studies, and we say, oh, well, what did they actually do for people? So I'm going to show you a few things that they do for people. Interestingly, every culture picks its nutrients, that there's its favorites. Japanese love astaxanthin, so most studies come from Japan. Interestingly enough, they gave 6 milligrams for just a month to a bunch of middle-aged people. 60% of people said their vision was better. I can tell you that's totally true. My vision got way better. If you slather it on your skin gets way better. And lastly, your ability to exercise goes up. It's really pretty cool, increases fitness. All right, the last agent we're going to talk about is carnosine. Anyone on carnosine? I know you are. Yay, carnosine. I love carnosine. Again, we now know that KRN stands for Kaufmann rating number. 7 categories. It does 2 things in 2 categories extraordinarily well. Everyone with me? Sweet. Carnosine. It is present in all muscle. It is a dipeptide. It comes from meat mostly, turkey and chicken. Its theory is that when you have chicken soup when you're sick, this is why you feel better. Just a theory. Of course, the older you get, the less you have, and men have more than women, so old women were sort of behind the 8 ball. Load up on your carnosine. Coolest experiment I've ever seen in my entire life. This is so neat. A bunch of Australians discovered that if you put carnosine, or if you put old human fibroblastic cells in a bath of carnosine, they rejuvenate. Okay? They become young again. They really do. If you take them out of the bath, they become old again. And you can go back and forth. Pretty cool. So I decided that I'm going to bathe in carnosine every day. That's kind of fun. These cells not only were able to do that, but they could double more. So the 25% increase in their doubling capacity. So let's look at the categories. Mitochondria, it's kind of the same as the astaxanthin. Does both. It is, in fact, an antioxidant all by itself, and it increases your own endogenous antioxidants. But the cool thing is what it does in the waste management category. It blocks AGE formation, right? All the sugar in your body, it can block it. The other really cool thing is it is a transglycosylating agent, which is a fancy way of saying it gets rid of the sugar. You can start stripping your AGEs with carnosine. That's pretty cool. So what does it do for us? If you are on carnosine and you like to listen to loud music, it blocks neural damage. I don't know why exactly, but it does. You can use it in eye drops, and it blocks and even reverses presbyopia. I see everyone here with reading glasses. It can make that better because your lens gets stiff from glycosylation, and we can reverse part of it. I got rid of my reading glasses, and it makes your skin better. All right, so I know you can't see this because I can't see it. This is my master list as it stands. This is 30 agents that I have rated. Took a lot of time, and I'm still busy rating more. I will tell you that I do not expect anyone to be on all of these at all. The idea is you get to pick and choose. This is information so that anyone here can build their own program. He's like jotting this down. You're going to go nuts. I can send it to you. All right, so let's go back to this person's protocol. Now you know that we've picked X number of agents. These are the numbers, and I've added them up because they're cumulative. Cool thing about this is you can just say, oh my gosh, this guy has tons of points in his mitochondria. That's awesome, right? Fewest points are individual cell needs. So if someone were to say, well, what should I add next? I'd say, add something for tenet 6, right? Alternatively, if someone said, you know what, I'm diabetic, I've got glucose issues, add more in waste management. Inflammatory issues, more in the security division. The idea is, it is easy to make your own program because now you have the information to do it. All right, people on my program, I get so many people telling me, I get emails every day, oh my gosh, my energy's better. I don't get sick anymore. I don't have asthma anymore, right? My skin is better, my hair is better, my sex life is better. Everyone notices things that are better. It is really remarkable. You need glasses. So how to choose a protocol depends on how old you are, what your medical concerns are, and what your goals are. Be moderately realistic. Can't cure everything, but we can just make things better. Obviously, age, and I'm almost done, so you guys are like kind of nodding off. If you're 35, maybe you should work on prevention, epigenetic modulating. You know that your DNA is getting attacked, maybe you should fix that. When you hit 45, 50, you know your NAD levels are taking a dive. You work on that. Started getting abdominal tire syndrome, well, now you know why you have it. When you can't sleep, now you know, right? This is answers. So you can tailor it. And I always laugh, because by the time you get to 90, man, you're just doing really well. You don't need me. All right, so we talked about it, diabetes, waste management, blah, 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 goals, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so where do you get this information? The answer is, you can't come to my office because I don't have one. This is a hobby. I am not a professional. Okay, I'm a pediatric anesthesiologist, so don't look me up because I don't have an office. However, I wanted to give people the tools to figure this out on their own. I do travel around giving lectures, which is kind of fun, but there's a book. It explains all of this in humorous detail, I hope. And if you still get stuck, there's an app. You put your information in, basically all the questions that we've been talking about, you press a button and voop, it tells you what to take. So that's kind of fun. A whole lot of citations you'll never be able to read. And questions?
So we're going to...
Uh-oh. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to...
Yes, yes. Very good. So where's Bunny B? Warren, I need you to collect Bunny B. Here she comes. Go ahead and collect the cards, and you're allowed to do whatever you like because that was splendid. Thank you very much, Dr. Sandra Kaufmann. Absolutely spectacular.
If you guys invite me back, lecture 2 is about the agents, because then you already know the first half.
All right. So I'm going to just take one, John, from the floor while we're waiting, if you would.
Do you have an opinion about senolytics? We've talked a lot in this church about
Repeat the question, please.
quercetin.
Okay, so he's asking about senolytics, and the answer is the studies on this are pretty new. I do take I call it quercetin. I think it's effective. I do take quercetin. I'm still waiting for the real research on any of the other ones. People are talking about timing and this and that and the other. The answer is senolytics are important. I don't think we're there yet to exactly know what to take and how much. But I do take quercetin, because I think that's quite important.
Good. Second question? All right, we're going to go from the floor right just a moment.
Yes, sir. So I have a website. I answer all questions on the website. I don't really have a mailing list yet. It's just me, so I don't have a whole lot of staff. I've done a bunch of lectures for People Unlimited, and I guess just if you Google me, my lectures pop up. I'm not as organized as I should be, but soon, maybe, yes, maybe. Sorry, yes.
So what Dr. Kaufmann just said a moment ago was that she can send whoever it was that was making all those notes the actual slide. What we're going to do is one step better. She has offered to allow us to put her PowerPoint presentation on our website, so you'll be able to access that. You'll be able to see that. You'll be able to look at that and read that much a little bit more clear than what we have here. I see. I noticed some of you are watching the back screen. For some reason, something's going on with these cameras. We're going to get that checked out by next month. So our next question, holy cow, that's a book. Sorry, I don't have time for a book. What can reverse dementia?
Excellent question. Dementia, number one, dementia comes from many reasons. The most likely form of dementia is from lipid peroxidation. Therefore, you need antioxidants that are able to cross the blood-brain barrier. Right? You guys know about the blood-brain barrier? So that includes metocurcumin, ECGC, There's a variety of them, and whoever asked that question, I actually have a list on my laptop that I'm willing to share with anyone because I give it to people that have neurologic issues. I can't cure neurologic issues, but I can try to prevent them if you have a family history of it.
Great, great. So here's a question. What is brown fat? How do you make it?
Brown fat and white fat. Once upon a time, they only thought that babies had brown fat. What it does is it causes you to shiver. It is thermogenic. It just keeps you warm, right? Babies actually, that's not completely true. When you are shivering, you're burning a mitochondria, blah, blah, blah. Babies can't shiver, so by using brown fats, makes energy and heat. So you get more if you live in a cold environment. So you can move to Alaska if you want, or you can artificially activate your sirtuins, which we all do, to cause your body to make more fat, more brown fat artificially. How much carnosine should I be taking daily? Excellent question. Carnosine is very interesting. It comes in 500 milligram tablets. If you take too much at one time, you will get the worst skin paresthesias you've ever felt. It's pretty weird. You take 500 for like 2 weeks to get used to it, and then you double up 500 twice a day. Make sure you have 8 hours in between. You can keep going up in little tidbits until you get that weird funky skin thing, okay? No, it feels way different. Having, as the world's biggest guinea pig, I can tell you it's different. That being said, if you've been on carnosine for a while, you have an enzyme called carnosinase that breaks down carnosine. So every 6 to 9 months, you come off of it for a few weeks, you let your enzymes go back down, and then you can start taking it again because you can have more of an effect. But I take 500 twice a day. I probably should take more. Where can we get your book? The answer is I'm going to be doing a book signing downstairs. Ta-da! And answering a boatload of questions, I would imagine. Yes, sir. Am I good?
That's great. So I want to thank Dr. Sandra Kaufmann one more time for our fantastic presentation. As Sandy just mentioned, we have her book. We'll be doing a book signing where you checked in. You don't want to miss on this. Why We Age and How to Stop It, a Kaufmann Protocol. Very, very interested in reading this over the next month. We will have a reception in Dr. Kaufmann's honor downstairs. We've got a 5-star meal for you. Full bar. It's going to be a wonderful time, so stick around and you'll be able to socialize and certainly ask them any of the questions that you may have. I'd like to also just remind you that we're going to be on Sunday. I'm going to be on Sunday. You know what? I'm going to need my glasses. I think I'm going to need that protocol that you have, Dr. Kaufmann, to figure out how to do this without my glasses. I simply don't have them. There we go. No, we're good. I buy 3 pair because I got 3 pockets, right? No, I'm going to look into that sincerely. Thank you. But so Sunday, May 19th, 3 o'clock, we're going to be having the presentation here. Our doors open at 2 o'clock with Peter Voss. Going to be great. And we also have coming up, very important, on June 27th, the panel of health experts with Brian Clement from the Hippocrates Institute, Joseph Scott of Healthy Tribe, and several others. The International Cryonic Symposium, the first time all of these organizations are going to be meeting under one roof, will be right here Saturday, July 27th, and that will be during the daytime. It's going to be a full-day event. We're privileged to have Dennis Kowalski, Max Moore, Linda Chamberlain, Joseph Kowalski, Mike Perry, Jim Yount, and you can read more about this as it develops. If anyone here does not get the email newsletters, please be sure to get with Deborah downstairs so that you can get those. Otherwise, you're going to be missing out on some wonderful articles and very interesting stuff. Those of you who are coming from out of town, how many people are coming from at least 2 or more hours away? 2 or more hours away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have an arrangement with 2 local hotels. One is the Holiday Inn over at Sheridan and I-95. I-95 in Sheridan, we have the Holiday Inn arrangement. It's a special rate. So if you would like to stay at a hotel there, as well as the La Quinta Inn, be sure to see me. I can give you some more details on that. All right, great to see you. Are there any questions? We'll see you next month, if not before.